My name is Emma Rivers, and I'm 28 years old. 3 weeks ago, I buried my grandfather. Or at least, I buried the man I thought was my grandfather. The man who raised me after my parents died. The man who taught me to ride a bike, helped me with calculus homework, walked me down the aisle at my wedding last year. The man who, it turns out, I never really knew at all. I'm standing in a law office in Portland, Oregon right now, surrounded by people I've never met who are claiming rights to my grandfather's estate. His house, his savings, the lifetime of memories I thought belonged to me. A woman named Patricia sits across from me. She's 53, dark hair graying at the temples, kind eyes that somehow make this worse. Next to her are 3 people in their 30s, Michael, Lauren, and David. They have my grandfather's nose, his green eyes, his smile. They are his children, which makes them my aunts and uncles, which makes everything I thought I knew about my life a lie. But before I tell you how we got here, before I tell you about the funeral and the revelation and the absolutely devastating paper trail we uncovered, you need to understand who my grandfather was to me, or who I thought he was. His name was Robert James Rivers. Everyone called him Jim. He was 76 when he died, 3 weeks ago, of a heart attack in his sleep. Quick, painless, the way everyone hopes to go. He'd been my legal guardian since I was 8 years old. My parents, Catherine and Michael Rivers, died in a car accident on I-84 in December of 2004. Black ice, a semi-truck. The state trooper who came to my grandfather's door said they didn't suffer. I was in 3rd grade. I'd been staying at Grandpa Jim's house that weekend because my parents had gone to Seattle for their anniversary. They were supposed to pick me up Sunday night. They never came. Grandpa Jim sat me down on his old leather couch, the one that smelled like pipe tobacco and Old Spice, and told me that my parents had gone to heaven, that I was going to live with him now, that he would take care of me. And he did. He sold his small apartment and bought a 3-bedroom house so I could have my own room. He learned to braid hair by watching YouTube videos. He showed up to every school play, every parent-teacher conference, every soccer game, even the ones where I spent the entire time on the bench. When I was 13 and got my period for the first time at school, he picked me up without asking questions, took me to the pharmacy, and bought me supplies while I waited in the car. Then he handed me a book about puberty and said, "Read chapter 4. If you have questions, I'll answer them. If you want to talk to a woman, I'll call your Aunt Sarah." Aunt Sarah was actually his friend Sarah from church. I didn't have any real aunts. Grandpa Jim was an only child. My dad had been an only child. It was just us, or so I thought. He paid for my college, Portland State, close to home. He said he didn't want me going into debt, that education was the one thing no one could take from you. When I met my husband, Derek, Grandpa Jim was the one who grilled him. Literally, we had a backyard barbecue, and Grandpa Jim spent 2 hours asking Derek about his job, his family, his intentions. "He's a good man," Grandpa Jim told me later. "But if he ever hurts you, you tell me." He walked me down the aisle last September, wore the same suit he'd worn to my high school graduation, cried during his speech at the reception. "Emma has been the greatest gift of my life," he said, raising his glass. "Her parents would be so proud of the woman she's become. I know I am." Everyone cried, including me. For months later, he was dead. I found him. I'd stop by on a Saturday morning with coffee and bagels, our weekly tradition. Let myself in with my key. Called out, "Grandpa, I brought everything bagels." He didn't answer. He was in his bed, looking peaceful, like he was sleeping. I knew immediately he wasn't. I called 911, held his hand while I waited for the ambulance, told him I loved him, thanked him for everything. The paramedics confirmed what I already knew. Natural causes. His heart. He'd probably died in his sleep around 3 a.m. The funeral was scheduled for the following Saturday. I spent the week in a fog, making arrangements, writing his obituary, choosing flowers. Derek handled most of it. I couldn't focus. I was an orphan at 8 and an orphan again at 28. The only difference was this time, I was old enough to understand what I'd lost. The funeral was at Grace Lutheran Church, where Grandpa Jim had been a member for 40 years. 200 people came. His friends from church, his bowling league, neighbors, my friends who'd known him as Grandpa Jim since we were kids. I'd written a eulogy. 4 pages, single-spaced. Stories about him teaching me to drive, about him learning to use FaceTime so we could talk every day after I moved into my own apartment, about the time he drove 3 hours in a snowstorm to bring me soup when I had the flu my freshman year of college. I was standing in the church vestibule, reviewing my notes one last time, when Pastor Mike approached me. "Emma, there's someone here who'd like to speak with you." I looked up. A woman stood a few feet away. Mid-50s, dark hair, nice dress. I didn't recognize her. "I'm so sorry for your loss," she said. Her voice was shaking. "I know this isn't the right time, but I didn't know if I'd get another chance." "Thank you. Were you a friend of my grandfather's?" She looked at Pastor Mike, then back at me. "I'm Patricia. Patricia Rivers." "Rivers." "I was married to Jim. I still am, technically. We never divorced." The vestibule went very quiet. I could hear the organ playing in the sanctuary, could hear people talking, laughing, sharing memories of a man they thought they knew. "I'm sorry, what?" "I know this is a shock, but I need you to know that Jim and I were married for 31 years. We have 3 children, Michael, Lauren, and David. They're here." She gestured to 3 people standing by the door, 30-something, nicely dressed, looking at me with expressions I couldn't read. "That's impossible. My grandfather raised me. I lived with him for 20 years. I would have known if—" "He had 2 homes," Patricia said quietly. "2 lives. I didn't know about you until 3 days ago when the lawyer called about the estate." The floor tilted. Derek appeared at my elbow. "Emma, what's going on?" I couldn't speak, couldn't process. Patricia pulled out her phone, showed me a photo. Ha, and my grandfather on a beach somewhere, his arm around her, both of them smiling. The date stamp said 2019. "I have our marriage certificate," she said. "I have 30 years of photos, tax returns, everything. Emma, I'm not trying to hurt you, but my children deserve to know their father is being buried today, and you deserve to know the truth." Pastor Mike looked stricken. "Perhaps we should postpone." "No." My voice came out stronger than I felt. "We're not postponing, but I need 5 minutes." I walked into the pastor's office, Derek following, closed the door, sat down in a chair and stayed at nothing. "Emma." He had another family. "We don't know that for sure. This woman could be. She has photos, Derek, tax returns, a marriage certificate. She's not lying. Maybe your grandfather was the one lying to her." I laughed. It came out harsh, broken. "For 31 years? While raising me? How?" Derek had no answer. I stood up, smoothed my dress, picked up my eulogy. For pages of stories about a man who apparently had an entire second life I knew nothing about. "What are you going to do?" Derek asked. "I'm going to give his eulogy, and then I'm going to find out who the hell my grandfather actually was." The service was surreal. I stood at the podium, looking out at 200 faces, and read my prepared speech. Stories about bike rides and homework help and wedding dances. In the back row sat Patricia and her 3 children, my grandfather's other family, listening to me describe a man they also knew, a man who was apparently a completely different person to them. When I finished, I looked at Patricia. She was crying. So was I. After the service, after the burial, after the reception at the church basement where people ate potato salad and told me what a wonderful man Jim Rivers had been, I went home. Derek made tea. I sat at our kitchen table and opened my laptop. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Research." I started with the basics. Marriage records, public records, property deeds. Robert James Rivers married Patricia Ann Morrison on June 14, 1992. County Courthouse, Portland, Oregon. Witnesses, Sarah Morrison and David Morrison. 3 years before my parents died. He'd been married when he became my guardian. I found property records. The house I'd grown up in, purchased in my grandfather's name only in 2005, right after my parents died. But there was another property, a house in Beaverton, a suburb 20 minutes away, purchased in 1995 in both Jim and Patricia's names. 2 houses, 2 lives. I found birth certificates. Michael Rivers, born 1988. Lauren Rivers, born 1991. David Rivers, born 1995. My grandfather had 3 children before he ever became my guardian, which meant when my parents died, when he sold his apartment and bought a house for me, when he became my world, he already had a family. I called the lawyer handling the estate, a man named Gordon Chen who'd been my grandfather's attorney for 20 years. Mr. Chen, this is Emma Rivers. I need to ask you something. Of course, Emma. I'm so sorry for your loss. Did you know my grandfather had another family? Silence. Mr. Chen. Emma, perhaps we should meet in person. We met the next day. Patricia was there. So were Michael, Lauren, and David. All of us sitting in a conference room, looking at each other like the strangers we were. Gordon Chen cleared his throat. I've been Jim's attorney since 2003. I prepared his will, managed his estate planning, handled various legal matters over the years. Did you know? I asked. About both families. Yes. The word hung in the air. Jim came to me in 2004, right after your parents died, Emma. He explained his situation. He had a wife and 3 children in Beaverton, and he had a granddaughter in Portland who'd just lost both parents. He wanted to take guardianship of you. What did Patricia say? I looked at her. Patricia's voice was tight. I didn't know. Not then. Jim told me his brother had died and he needed to help settle the estate. That's why he'd be gone more often. He said he was traveling for work. I believed him. For 20 years. He was very convincing, and I was very stupid. Michael spoke up. When did you find out? Patricia looked at her son. 5 years ago. I found a photo on his phone of him and Emma at Hope College graduation. I confronted him. He told me everything. And you stayed with him. I couldn't keep the judgment out of my voice. He begged me to. Said he was going to tell you, that he was waiting for the right time. He said if I left him, it would devastate you, that you'd already lost so much. She looked at me. He made me promise to wait until you were settled, married, happy. Then he'd tell you the truth. He died before he could. Yes. Gordon Chen pulled out a document. This is Jim's will. He left instructions for after his death. He read it aloud. The house in Portland, mine. The house in Beaverton, Patricia's. His savings, split 4 ways between me, Michael, Lauren, and David. He also left letters, 1 for each of you. He handed out envelopes. My hands shook as I opened mine. Dear Emma, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you've met Patricia and the others. I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. I'm sorry for many things. When your parents died, I made a choice. I had a family. I loved them. But you needed me more. You were 8 years old and completely alone. I couldn't let you go into foster care. I couldn't let you lose everyone. I told myself I'd tell you when you were older. Then I told myself I'd tell you after college. Then after your wedding. I kept pushing it back because I was a coward. Because I knew that once you knew, I'd lose you. And losing you would have destroyed me. I know what I did was selfish. I know I hurt everyone involved. Patricia deserved a full-time husband. Michael, Lauren, and David deserved a full-time father. You deserved honesty. But Emma, I need you to know this. Every moment I spent with you was real. Every bike ride, every homework session, every breakfast I made you before school. That wasn't a lie. You weren't a burden or an obligation. You saved me as much as I saved you. I hope someday you can forgive me. But if you can't, I understand. I love you. I always will. Grandpa Jim. I read it twice. 3 times. Derek put his hand on my shoulder. Emma. He chose me. My voice cracked. He had a whole family, and he chose me. You were a child who needed him. So were they. I looked at Michael, Lauren, and David. How old were you when my parents died? Michael answered. I was 16. Lauren was 13. David was 9. He missed your childhoods. Not all of it, Lauren said quietly. He was there sometimes. Birthdays. Some holidays. He said he traveled a lot for work. We believed him. When did you find out? 5 years ago. When Mom found out. He sat us down and told us about you. Said he'd been helping raise his orphan granddaughter. He made it sound noble. Like he was doing the right thing. Did you hate me? She looked surprised. We didn't know you. How could we hate you? We were angry at him. For lying. For choosing. He didn't choose, David said. Not really. He tried to do both. He just did both badly. Gordon Chen cleared his throat. There's one more thing. Jim left a video. He recorded it 6 months ago. He wanted all of you to watch it together. He set up a laptop on the conference table. Press play. My grandfather appeared on screen. He looked older than I remembered. Tired. Hi everyone. If you're watching this, I'm gone. And you're all in the same room. Probably angry. Probably confused. I'm sorry for that. I'm not going to make excuses. What I did was wrong. I lived 2 lives. I lied to everyone I loved. I hurt people who deserved better. But I want you all to know something. I loved you all. Every single one of you. Not in halves. Not in pieces. Completely. Emma, you gave me purpose when I thought my life was over. Watching you grow up was the greatest privilege of my life. Patricia, you were my partner for 31 years. You deserved all of me, and I'm sorry I couldn't give you that. Michael, Lauren, David, you're my children. I'm proud of the people you've become, even though I wasn't there as much as I should have been. I'm asking you all to do something I couldn't do. Be honest with each other. Get to know each other. Your family, whether you want to be or not. Emma, they're your family too. I know that's hard to hear, but it's true. I failed you all in life. Don't let me fail you in death. Talk to each other. Listen. Maybe find a way forward together. I love you all. I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to say that while I was alive. The video ended. We sat in silence. Finally, Patricia spoke. I don't expect us to be friends. But Jim was right about one thing. We are family, and we need to figure out what that means. Over the next 3 weeks, we met 4 times. Coffee shops, the lawyer's office, once at the house in Beaverton, where I saw photos of my grandfather with children I'd never known existed. Birthday parties I wasn't at. Christmases I didn't share. It was surreal, painful, necessary. Michael showed me photos of their dad teaching him to drive. The same car my grandfather taught me in. Same instructions. Same dad jokes. Lauren told me about the time he missed her high school graduation because I had a soccer tournament. She'd been angry for years. Now she just felt sad. David, the youngest, said what we were all thinking. He loved us all. He just didn't know how to love us all at once. So he split himself in half and hoped we wouldn't notice the missing pieces. I told them about the bike rides, the braided hair, the college fund. They told me about camping trips, baseball games, awkward puberty talks that apparently he gave to all of us using the same script. We were all living in the same story, just different chapters. Do you hate him? Lauren asked me during one of our meetings. I thought about it, really thought about it. I don't know. I'm angry. I feel betrayed. But he was there for me when I had no one. He raised me. He loved me. Does the lie erase all of that? I think, Michael said slowly, that people can be both good and bad at the same time. Dad did a terrible thing. He lied for decades. He hurt all of us. But he also showed up. He helped people who needed him. Those things are both true. Patricia had been quiet through most of our meetings. But at the last one, she said something that stuck with me. I've had 5 years to process this. And here's what I've learned. Jim wasn't a villain. He was a coward who loved too many people and didn't have the courage to figure out how to do it honestly. That doesn't excuse what he did, but it explains it. The estate was settled last week. I got the house in Portland, the one I grew up in. Patricia kept the house in Beaverton. The savings were split 4 ways, just like the will said. But something else happened that wasn't in the will. I invited Michael, Lauren, and David to Thanksgiving this year. At my house. The house their father bought, but they'd never been to. You don't have to, Michael said. I know, but I want to. We didn't get to choose how we became family, but we can choose what we do with it now. They said yes. I'm sitting in my grandfather's house right now. My house. The living room where he taught me to play chess. The kitchen where we made pancakes every Sunday morning. There's a photo on the mantle of him and me at my wedding. His smile is real. His pride is real. His love was real. The lies were real too. I've learned something these past 3 weeks. People aren't simple. They are contradictions. They can be heroes and liars. They can save you and betray you. They can love you completely and hurt you deeply, sometimes at the same time. My grandfather gave me a life when mine was destroyed. He also stole 20 years from another family. Both things are true. I'm learning to hold both truths at once. Tomorrow, Derek and I are going to Beaverton. Patricia invited us for dinner. She wants to show me more photos, tell me more stories about the man I thought I knew. Are you ready for this? Derek asked me this morning. No, but I don't think I'm supposed to be. I have 3 aunts and uncles I didn't know existed 3 weeks ago. I have a step-grandmother who's not really a step-grandmother but not one either. I have a family I didn't choose, didn't ask for, didn't want. But they are mine, and I'm theirs. And maybe that's enough. My name is Emma Rivers. I'm 28 years old. My grandfather raised me and lied to me and loved me and betrayed me. And I'm learning that sometimes the most important thing isn't whether someone was good or bad. Sometimes the most important thing is deciding who you want to be when the truth comes out. I choose to be someone who stays. I choose to be someone who shows up. I choose to be someone who doesn't run from complicated truths. My grandfather taught me that, even though he never learned it himself. If you're reading this and you've discovered a truth that shattered everything you thought you knew, I want you to know something. You get to decide what you do with it. You can close the door, or you can walk through it and see what's on the other side. You can hold on to anger, or you can hold on to the good parts while acknowledging the bad. You can be defined by what was done to you, or you can define yourself. I'm choosing the latter. Next Thursday is Thanksgiving. I'm making my grandfather's famous stuffing recipe. Michael, Lauren, David, Patricia, Derek, and I will sit around my dining room table, the one my grandfather bought 20 years ago, and we'll share a meal. We'll probably be awkward, probably sad, probably still processing, but we'll be together, and maybe that's what family really is. Not the people who never hurt you, but the people who hurt you and show up anyway. The people you hurt and who show up anyway. The people who choose to stay when leaving would be easier. My grandfather taught me that too, even if he learned it too late. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever discovered a truth that changed everything, leave me a comment. Tell me, what would you have done? Could you forgive? Would you stay? Your story matters, and you're not alone. I'll see you next time.